तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणरघुनाथानुतं सजीवं साद्वैतं सर्वदूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सद्गुणविदिता श्रीशाखान्वितंश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय विष्णुप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महाधन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य कृष्णे हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशाय गोपीनाथ भक्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी वन्दे वृन्दावनेश्वरी सते देवी प्रणमामि वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे Hare Krishna 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 Bro, can you make me co-host? Please share screen. Thank you. You can recite all with me. Can be muted. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamodaya Purnamevasishyate Ishamyasya Sarvam Panchadittam Jagatena Tattva Punjita Ita Krishna Suttanam. Yeah, we are in the last sloka. The Prabhupada initially talked about the purifying potency of devotional service. He says that the devotional service can, you cannot imagine how much the devotional service can purify us, the surrender to the Lord. And then he talks about how even if one fails in devotional service in one lifetime, he can continue in the next life. And then he says generally one takes to devotional service through coming from Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and then devotional service. But one can also take to devotional service directly. Okay. Maybe I won't read today. When I speak today. Since the omnipotent Lord is situated within the heart of everyone, he can give directions to his sincere devotees by which they can attain the right path.
Prabhuji, will you speak a little louder?
Yeah, let me see.
Can't hear you properly.
So, okay. Now is it better? Hare Krishna. Should be better. Since the omnipotent Lord is situated within the heart of everyone, he can give directions to his sincere devotees by which they can attain the right path. Such directions are especially offered to the devotee even if he desires something else. As far as others are concerned, God gives sanction to the doer only at the risk of the doer. Which means generally if somebody approaches Lord only for
Actually, not able to hear right now. Earlier it was a little better. I don't know if others are also facing the same.
Hare, Hare, Hare. Okay, now is it better? Hare Krishna.
Yes, well,
Okay, thank you. I have to sit near now. Okay. Since the omnipotent Lord is situated within the heart of everyone, he can give directions to his sincere devotees by which they can attain the right path. Such directions are especially offered to the devotees even if he desires something else. As far as others are concerned, God gives sanction to the doer only at the risk of the doer. So generally, if somebody Artho Artharthi Jigyasu, like as Bhagavad Gita says, if somebody is a mixed devotee, then then if he approaches the Lord, or he approaches Lord indirectly through demigods, mostly that case is being taught. So then the demigods don't care about what will be the future consequences of giving that benediction to that particular person. So then they don't, because he will get again he will, because the desires multiply and he will get bound in the material world, so that they don't care, they just give. Like if you see, if a naughty child or if a small child who doesn't know what is good for his health, if he goes to a shopkeeper, then the shopkeeper doesn't care about his or her health. But a parent worries, that the child should not take so many chocolates, should take proper nutritious food. So that is there. So Lord is like the parent, but a shopkeeper is like the demigod. So if somebody approaches the Lord indirectly through demigods and all, so then it is their risk what they ask. But in the case of a devotee, the Lord directs him in such a way that he never acts wrongly. Like Lord tells in Bhagavad Gita, Teshameva anukampardam aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. So as the super soul in the heart, Lord destroys the anarthas for the devotee. Otherwise, for others, Lord just fulfills as per their desire what they deserve. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.42 also says, Swapadamulam bhajata priyasya tyaktyaanyabhavasya hariparesha vikarma yacho chotpatitam katanchit dhunoti sarvam hrudi sannivishta. The Lord is so kind to the devotee who is fully surrendered to his lotus feet that even though the devotee sometimes fall into the entanglement of vikarma, acts against the Vedic directions, the Lord at once rectifies such mistakes from within his heart. This is because the devotees are very dear to the Lord. Priyasya, bhajata priyasya, because devotees are dear to the Lord. Tyaktva anya bhavasya hariparesha, anya bhavasya, and sometimes vikarma yat chopatitam. Sometimes they ask, uh, some some things which are even something sinful, so something against devotional service, Lord rectifies the such mistakes. In this mantra of Sri Ishopanishad, the devotee prays to the Lord to rectify him from within his heart. To err is human. A conditioned soul is very often apt to commit mistakes, and the only remedial measure to take against such unintentional sins is to give oneself up to the lotus feet of the Lord so that he may guide one to avoid such pitfalls. Okay, so you can take around 5 minutes and you can answer these questions. Give examples from scriptures where devotees got tempted by material desires. So it's devotees, not others. Where devotees got tempted by material desires and got distracted and then were saved by the Lord. Yeah, I can tell from Bhagavatam, Ramayana, etc. And also give reasons why a sadhaka or a materially conditioned devotee may get tempted. Means what are the different reasons why a sadhaka devotee can get tempted. You can think about it and we'll discuss after 4 minutes. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Okay, so first one is Yashras Prabhu can tell.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So first example is Kala Krishna Das in South India tour.
Okay.
He was attracted by some women, and at that time Mahaprabhu personally come and he free.
Saved them. Saved him.
He saved him.
Okay. Okay. Any other example?
Pretty one more example is I don't know it's appropriate or not. It's a Satyabhama. She was attracted to one tree, and when then after that Krishna fight with the Indra, and
That's yeah. See, that can be also. She wants it to serve Krishna, so that's at least it's not
okay,
described as a material desire exactly. So it's
okay.
fine. Okay. Yes, Prajavatari Chaitanya.
Prabhuji, one would be Sugriv, who got,
Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes.
and from Bhagavatam, Ajamil.
Ajamel also, but of course he is not a practicing pure devotional service exactly in the beginning. So in some way it is also correct. Yes, please. Yes, Prabhu, Shrikant Prabhu.
Prabhuji Vishwamitra, he was distracted sometimes
Uh,
by
yeah,
Apsaras, and then later he.
of course he was not so much of a devotee. He was that time practicing yoga, so not very much appropriate. Okay, any other? Okay, good example. Also, examples are there like Bharat Maharaj. You can also say Kaikai, like that. Yeah. There is also example of Gopinath Patnaik. Okay. Okay, now for second question. Anyone? Yes, bro. For second question.
I want to try to answer. I think of
Yeah.
3 points. One was
Hmm.
the sadhaka, he declares war against Maya. So Maya will like to test him
Mhm.
by giving all the temptations.
Okay.
Second was as we start the purification of the heart, the settled dust, it gets unsettled and the anarthas start popping up.
Okay.
Third
Mhm.
is that if sadhaka is not doing the sadhana with proper attitude, he may be watering the weeds which grow up as the sadhana.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Okay. Good, good, good. Okay. Anyone else want to try? Yes, bro. Yes, bro.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So my answer is sometime Krishna himself uh, uh, make such kind of condition. So his devotee get tempted, and after the temptation, when he will be the saved. After that, his devotion service and his devotional practice become more firm, and after that, his only desire to just Krishna. He want to just attain only Krishna.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Let's discuss now. It's the verse from Mukundamala Satana. भवजलधिगतानां द्वन्द्ववाताहतानां सुतदुहित्रकलत्रत्राणभार विषमविषयतो ये मज्जितामप्लवानां भवति शरणमेको विष्णुकृतो नराणाम्. So one of the things is Bhavajaladigatanam. We are in a material world. Yeah. Another Dvandva Vata Hatana. We may be put in a situations of duality by our destiny. So that is one reason. And Sutta Duhita Kalatra Tana Bhar Ardhitana. So we may be put in a situation or we may have to associate with materialists. So that's why also we may get tempted. Vishama Vishaya Toye. Sometimes we have material needs, so for that we have to interact with sense objects. So because of that also we may get tempted. Yeah. So there can be karma because we have material desires. Means while practicing devotional service also we have material desires because of our because of previous activities before coming to Krishna consciousness, and you can say even previous lives. And there is karma because we have committed some mistakes or some sinful activities. We have to get reactions of those things. So one of the reactions is will be put up, we have to go through suffering and we have to also face dualities. So one may be tempted to counter those dualities through sense gratification. Vishaya. So we have to interact with food means, or clothes, and also one may get more tempted and get carried away by them. Even prasad in some way. And Vishayi, materialists. So these are the reasons. Yes. Of course, Krishna himself trying to do that, that's for very advanced devotees. Maybe someone like Bharat Maharaj or something, but not generally for sadhakas. Okay. So that's what like Prabhupada, that's why I said to err is human, a conditioned soul is very often apt to commit mistakes. And again, yeah, sometimes we may not practice devotional service properly because of which offenses may happen. So that is also there. Yeah. As a reaction of that, also our devotional service may become weak and we may get more tempted. That is also possible. Like Saubhari Muni, etc. Okay. So then Prabhupada writes, the Lord takes charge of fully surrendered souls. Thus, all problems are solved simply by surrendering oneself unto the Lord and acting in terms of His directions. So, here also Kulshekar Maharaj is saying the solution is Vishnu Puto Naranam. So, taking shelter of the lotus feet of Vishnu, which are like a boat to cross the material ocean. That is the solution. Of course, we can also try to identify these things and try to also work on them. That also helps. But ultimate solution is doing devotional service more properly and more better, more quality and quantity. Such directions are given to the sincere devotees in two ways. One is by the way of the saints, scriptures, and spiritual master, and the other is by way of the Lord Himself. So, so then how Lord helps, like Kala Krishna Das and all, Lord could directly help. Like Bharat Maharaj and all, Lord arranged. Lord also helped through his heart. So when he became the deer, then he got that revelation that no, he commit because of the got carried away, and that's why he had to fall down from his devotional service and all. So then he could recover from his. Otherwise, it generally happens. In one sense, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Kala Krishnadas is also acting in some way like a saint. So through saints, scriptures, and spiritual master. Otherwise, Lord, like as Lord told, Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yenamam Upayantite. Vedic knowledge is transcendental and cannot be understood by mundane educational procedures. One can understand the Vedic mantras only by the grace of the Lord and the spiritual master. Yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tatha guru tasyete katita hi artha. So, katita hi artha means whatever we are hearing and reading, katita artha prakashante. Prakashante means their meaning gets revealed. So first is when we should read and hear, means that is the effort. And if we are sincere, if our attitude is good, we'll get the mercy. Through mercy, we get understand. If one takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, it is to be understood that he has obtained the grace of the Lord. Yeah. The Lord appears as the spiritual master for the devotee, thus the spiritual master, the Vedic injunctions, and the Lord himself from within all guide the devotee in full strength. In this way, there is no chance for a devotee to fall again into the mire of material illusion. Yeah, if somebody is practicing without any offenses, or then one will not be affected. If one is practicing attentively, etc. If there is some very serious offenses, then one may leave the devotion service. Otherwise, one always will be helped by the Lord in some way or other. The devotee, thus protected all round, is sure to reach the ultimate destination of perfection. The entire process is hinted at in this mantra in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.17 to 20 explains it further. So, so in this first sloka, so Sutta Goswami is telling that the personality of Godhead who is the Paramatma. So as one hears the message of the Lord, hears Bhagavatam and the glories of Lord. So Lord as Paramatma cleanses his heart. So by the cleansing, what happens? Nashtaprayasha Bhadreshu Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So the devotional service becomes more strong as the obstacles and impurities from the heart are cleansed. Then what happens? Tada rajas tamo bhava kamalobha deshaya. So the greed and lust, all these things get purified. Then one's consciousness becomes pure goodness, and then one can perceive the Lord. At Baba and all, one can see the Lord. One can get darshan, glimpse of the Lord. That is okay. So that only Prabhupada is
I think Prabhuji got
sorry. Yeah. So we have seen the shlokas. Now Prabhupada is paraphrasing their translations. Hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord is itself an act of piety. Punya Shravana Kirtana. The Lord wants everyone to hear and chant his glories because the Lord wants everyone to hear and chant his glories because he is the well-wisher of all living entities. By hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, one becomes cleansed of all undesirable things, Nashtaprayesha Bhadresha. And thus one's devotion becomes fixed upon the Lord, Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. At this stage, the devotee acquires the Brahminical qualifications and the effects of the lower modes of nature, passion and ignorance completely vanish. Sitam Sattve Pasigati. The devotee becomes fully enlightened by virtue of his devotional service, and thus he comes to know the path of the Lord and the way to attain him. As all doubts diminish, he becomes a pure devotee. So this is the end. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose to Sri Upanishads, the knowledge that brings one nearer to the Supreme Personality of Lord and Krishna. Yeah, Upanishad. Upanishad means one, Upa means near, so one that brings near to the Lord. That's it. And this is Ishopanishad, so okay. I hope this shloka is clear. So now we'll revise the entire thing what we have studied in Ishopanishad, and then we'll see if there are any questions. So in the introduction, Prabhupada initially talked about Pratyaksha Praman and Anuman Praman, and how they have these four defects of imperfect senses and illusion, tendency to commit mistakes, and cheating propensity. And also, that's an inductive knowledge, which means you have to experiment and you have to get, like, we saw the example of COVID vaccine. So it will be defective also, and it takes a lot of time. It can be erroneous. Then, whereas the knowledge through Shabda Praman, it is deductive knowledge. Means it is coming, so it saves time. We are just hearing from, we are getting in the parampara. So the Shabda Praman is again, so this is even material things. Like we don't research on, like, how to become a doctor ourselves. The students don't research, but they learn from the already teachers who heard from their teachers, like that. So Shabda Praman again is the sole authority for spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge you cannot gain through Pratyaksha and Anuma. So, and Shabda Praman saves time. So Vedas and Srimad Bhagavatam, they are the Shabda Praman, and then Prabhupada tells about how Krishna, in the spiritual world, how Krishna is the Supreme Lord, etc. And to get spiritual knowledge, one needs submission. Then Ishopanishad is a part of the Shukla Yajurveda under Vajaseniya Samhita. Yeah. He also studied about the different parts of the Vedic literature, the different parts of the Vedas, Brahmanas, Samhitas, all these things, Aranyakas and Upanishads. And the Shruti, Smriti, those things also studied, and Shruti Prasthan, Smriti Prasthan, and Nyaya Prasthan, that also studied. Then coming to the invocation shloka, the Purnamada refers to the Lord is complete, means Lord has 6 opulences, he has all the potencies, he's omnipresent, omniscient, and he's all merciful. So that way Lord is complete. Then Purnamidam refers to the material world that is complete. How the material world is complete, it doesn't mean that it can provide anyone whatever they want. The completeness has to be defined with respect to purpose. So the purpose of material world is it provides all the needs for the living entities for their sustenance, and it also provides the facility to go back, to get out of the material world through shastras, sadhus, holy places, tirthas, and holy rivers. So that way material world is complete. Then Prabhupada makes this very pertinent statement: all forms of incompleteness are experienced due to the incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. So because of lack of devotional service, people try to enjoy through material things, which does not give complete happiness and also gives suffering. So that's why they experience incompleteness. Okay, now coming to the first shloka, the Ishavasya. So the Ishavasya principle means you are understanding and recognizing that Lord is the ultimate controller and proprietor, Isha, and follow God's laws, which means you acquire your material needs dharmically through Varnashrama Dharma, and also practice devotional service. So if you do these things, then whatever you get by the arrangement of destiny is your quota. If one neglects Ishavasya principle, there will be conflict. Prabhupada gives the example of conflict between capitalists and communists. Both are claiming that they are the right, and they are claiming proprietorship, and they're fighting, and they have nuclear weapons, and it's causing a lot of problem. And the second shloka, it tells what are the consequences if you follow the Ishavasya principle. Initially, it explains about karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma creates bondage, pious activities. Vikarma means sinful activities. It leads to punishment. And akarma means your detached and dutiful activities. So akarma, then it doesn't cause any material bondage. And one can live doing akarma for hundreds of years. Then the third shloka tells if one does not follow Ishavasya principle, what happens? It is vikarma. So it leads to degradation. One may take birth among lower species, or hellish existence, or both. Then the fourth to fifth shlokas, they describe the Lord through contradictions. Because this is Upanishads, so the Lord is described in this kind of contradictions. We studied the different reasons why it is so. So one is fixed, Lord is fixed, but he cannot be understood by anyone. Generally, if something is fixed, it is easy to understand it. But Lord is not understood by anyone because of the Achintya Shakti of the Lord, and Lord is spiritual. So even the many sages, they try to speculate about the Lord. Lord cannot be understood. Then sitting in one place, Lord controls everything. Generally, sitting in one place, it's not difficult. It's not easy to control many things. One has to go here, there, and to control. But Lord is able to do that is through His energies. Then the fifth sloka talks about Lord walks and doesn't walk. So it is Achintya Shakti. Lord is very far, but also very near. So Prabhupada explains Lord as Paramatma is very near, and also Lord is in deity form. And Lord is outside of everything, but also inside, as Paramatma is, and outside of everything, he is in the spiritual world. So then, sixth and seventh shloka, they talk about how to worship the Lord. So Lord can be worshipped by trying to see the Lord in everything, and seeing everything in Lord. Means seeing everything in Lord means how everything is connected to the Lord, how everything is part and parcel of the Lord. And Lord in everything means seeing how Lord is present as Paramatma, and how the particular living entity is, because of being away from the Lord, it is suffering like that. When someone sees like this, then one understands that everything is property of the Lord, and everything has to be engaged in Lord's service. So in that way, one does not hate anything. When somebody hates something, when something is not giving him sense gratification or obstructing his sense gratification. But when one seeing everything in a devotional perspective, he will not hate anything. And the second shloka tells that he will also not experience any illusion, or he does not lament anything. We also studied about the Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, Kanishtadhikari, etc. And then in the eighth shloka, there is description of the qualities of absolute truth. He is described in respect to material world as his akayam, means his body is different. We saw the differences we discussed. And Ashna Veram and Avranam. Ashnavira means he does not have any veins, and Avrana means he is beyond reproach. And then some other qualities like Shuddham, he is pure. Apapa Viddham means he can make everything pure. Kavi is a poet and greatest, Paridu is greatest. Prabhupada explains this in the purports, different things. Then 9th, 10th, and 11th shlokas we saw about knowledge. So the 9th shloka talks about wrong knowledge. So one type of wrong knowledge is knowledge of sense gratification. So that leads to sin and hell. But wrong knowledge in guise of education. One is in terms of science. Science indirectly talks a lot about materialism, and also it is anti-spiritual. We discussed in detail how science orients people towards sense gratification, and it gives uh, wrong or incomplete explanations of the origin of universe and life, etc. Then Prabhupada talks about Veda Vadaratas who teach demigod worship is ultimate. That makes one go in, go in the material world only. He will remain in the material world only. And Maya Apahrita Jnana, which is like New Age philosophers and Advaitavadis who So they are come under Maya Bharata Jnana. So Prabhupada talks about these two things. Who tell that everyone is God, we are God, like that. So this is wrong knowledge, but it appears like proper knowledge, like education and Vedic education, etc. But this actually leads deviates people more, and they will also make others also more blind. Now 10th sloka talks about knowledge, two types of knowledge. So one type of knowledge is transcendental knowledge. So Prabhupada explains it, the 18 items of knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. So which are like the qualities that are required and the knowledge given in Bhagavad Gita to realize that knowledge. Both are there. So that if one practices, one will go back to spiritual world, rising above the darkness in the material world. But another type of knowledge is avidya, which keeps one in the darkness of the material world, like the modern education and the demigod worship. So that keeps one in the material world, like demigod worship, one goes to heavenly planets, and after punya gets over, then one again has to come to earth, and one again performs yajnas. So he will be just rotating in the cycle. Then one needs to, one has to learn this vidya from a dhira. Dhira means one who has sense control and should be received through oral submissive reception. Then 11th talks about the balance between material knowledge and spiritual knowledge. So material knowledge is knowledge about dharma, duty, etc. And the balance is needed because Prabhupada gives this example of fever. So we don't want to increase the fever, nor we want to make the fever zero, but the fever should be normal. So because we have material needs, we need to fulfill them in some way. But that is not ultimate. You have to focus on the spiritual knowledge. Now the 12th sloka, similar to the previous sloka, 12th sloka talks about a wrong religion, asambhuti and sambhuti, all this. So it is the demigod worship ignoring the Supreme Lord. So that will also cause rise to sin and hell because it is against the laws of the material world. Material world, demigod worship can be done, but you should recognize them as the part and parcel of Supreme Lord. Then another thing which may appear like we are worshipping Supreme Lord, but that is deviant is like the Maya Advaitavad philosophy. One may be worshipping Brahman, but it leads to more dangerous. It's more dangerous. So it is offensive also, and it also will can lead to sin and hellish existence. Then the third is religion. One type of religion is devotional service. So how Prabhupada explains like how through different Vedic quotations how Krishna is supreme of everyone, and one should water the root of the tree. And that way one will reach spiritual world above the beyond the darkness of the material world. But then there is another thing, demigod worship, Sambhuti, which keeps one in the material world, as we discussed before. And also the wrong teachers, which are adhiras, they don't have sense control and all. They teach like they advocate social service, like Manav Seva, Madhav Seva. We discussed also elaborate about the Advaitavad Mayavad philosophy and how the different things they advocate, demigod worship or social service. What is the what is their reasoning behind it, etc. And how they are wrong. Then the 14th sloka talks about the balance between the Varnashrama duties and devotional service. And Prabhupada emphasizes that the material world is a temporary place. The universe is also temporary. Our planet is temporary. Our universe is temporary. And he also explains how modern life, they are trying to make things permanent, but it's never successful. So devotional service consisting of hearing, chanting, and other 9 processes takes one above the material world. Then the other 15, 16 are like prayers, which explain that there is beyond the Brahman feature of the Lord, there is Bhagavan feature of the Lord in both the prayers. And Prabhupada explains about this, how the Brahman means does not have any potencies, Paramatma has material potencies, and Bhagavan means it has both material and spiritual potencies. And Prabhupada also explains about Paramatma, the three Purushas, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Kshirodaksha Vishnu, and Karandodaksha Mahavishnu. And in the next shloka also it is similar. And in the last two shlokas, they are prayers for deliverance. So in the 17th, he talks about how the body is going to be burnt and it is temporary. So Prabhupada explains that in detail, and then Prabhupada explains about the devotional service. And yeah, the last shloka we have seen just now, how the surrender to the Lord is safe, and it is carried from after death, and the Lord personally takes care of the devotee that he does not get deviated, etc. Okay, so this is about Ishwar Mishra. So any questions, anything on this?
Thank you, bro, for the very nice summary. This is very useful.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so tomorrow we have exam from 4 to 5:30. I hope you have gone through the closed book questions in the handbook. So okay, so all can all be in the time. So the link for online, those who have to write online, that Shrikant Pro will send. Okay. Any other questions about it? Okay, so and we'll resume our class again on the next Saturday. Somehow the teacher who is supposed to teach first unit is somehow he got busy and he had some other engagement. So you have to bear with me again for the first unit of Bhagavad Gita and second unit. Okay, so we'll
Hare
stop
Krishna,
here.
Prabhu.
Yes,
Hare
Mata.
Krishna.
Yes, Mata.
Prabhu, tomorrow exam is from 4 to 5:30 or 5:30 to 7:30?
4 to 5:30.
Because in message it is written 5 to 7, I think.
5, yeah.
Yeah.
Earlier we wrote 5:30 to 7, but in the yesterday sent another message. Yesterday only I posted the message in the morning. So it is 4 to 5:30 because the office staff are not available. That's why.
Okay, sir. Anything is needed to bring with us, paper or something like that?
The paper, everything they'll provide. I think you have to bring your pen and that's all.
Okay.
They have planks, the chairs, they have planks, so that's not needed. Pad, if you want to bring, you can bring. And yeah, watch. To know the time you want to keep, you can keep watch. Mobiles are not allowed to be used there. Okay, so all the best for your exam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, bro. Pranam, Prabhu. Yeah.